Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Air Station One podcast. That's right, folks, we're back, and we got a great one for you tonight. We are looking at Neil Gaiman's Good Omens 2. That's right.
Yay!
We have been excited for this one. We really, really have been excited. Mary and I did a panel at Concaster Burris over probably back in June. God, it feels like it was months ago
Feels like
already.
ages ago.
I
Yeah.
know. And we did a Good Omens panel, and we were all talking about it at the panel, how excited we were for this. And it's an original story. So it's interesting compared to the first season, which was based completely on the book that we had. And what we had with it is just really awesome. What we got, new characters, we got some familiar characters, and some interesting twists. And we're going to talk all about it. Of course, if you're watching this and you have not seen Good Omens 2 yet, it's on Amazon, folks. Go ahead and watch it because you will be spoiled. We are going to be talking all about this. We got a great crew to talk about this tonight. Of course, Mr. Howdy himself, Mr. Mike Gordon, is here.
Howdy.
You ready for this one, sir?
I am.
It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. And returning, of course, I couldn't do this. This is my partner at Concaster Burris for the panel. Mary Ogle is here.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to talk about this.
This is going to be an awesome one. And returning to the show after over 4 years. Ooh. Drew Meyer is back.
Please call me Jim. I'm a bookseller.
Yes. Hi, Jim. He could be Gabriel. No, maybe. Never know. Who's that person? You go back into the store. There's so much fun with this season. It's going to be a lot of fun. And folks, we definitely would love to hear from you guys. Feedback at ourstation1.com is the best way to get in touch with us. So please, definitely, if you want to leave feedback for it, or as we always like to say, like and subscribe to our show if you get a chance. And up on YouTube, you can ring the little bell because you know what? That's how you find out we put out new episodes every week. Pretty awesome. And we got a lot of great stuff coming your way. So why not subscribe? Tell your friends and neighbors so they can tell someone, and they can tell someone, and so on and so forth. All right, Mr. Mike, ready to jump in with both feet on this one?
Yeah, let's do it. We got word that there was going to be a second series, and we got word for that. That was announced in June of 2021 after the pretty good success of the first series, which we thought was just going to be a limited series, an adaptation of the book by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. I'm going to start with you, Drew. When you heard that, well, first of all, how did you feel about the first miniseries or series that adapted the book of Good Omens?
I really enjoyed it. We watched it as soon as it came out. I was a huge fan of the book. I read it the year it came out. It was an annual event for me for probably about the first 10 years that it was out. Loved the series, and we were really excited to see series 2. In fact, leading up to series 2, we watched all of series 1 to remind ourselves. And
nice.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of concern because since Terry Pratchett's no longer with us, that it would be it wouldn't have that same magic?
I wouldn't say concern. There was a curiosity just to see what they did. Anytime you are starting a project that was not designed to have a sequel and you create it, it's always interesting. But for me, the thing that's really important is if you don't like the adaptation of it, it's fine. You always have the original. So even if I didn't like the second season, I would still have the first season, which I loved, and the book, which I loved. So I wasn't concerned.
Gotcha. Mary, how about you? Were you concerned that it would be difficult to follow up in Armageddon?
Not really, because one, Neil Gaiman is so involved in this production, and he has said that he based the second, and actually, if we have one, the third series, on notes and stories that he and Terry had already come up with. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't add anything, but he definitely had the core of the idea there already. So I trusted in Neil Gaiman, and I think they really delivered.
Yeah, and I think credit has to go to John Finnemore too for kind
Absolutely.
of stepping in and being the writing partner with Gaiman on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not really sure about Finnemore's other work, but based on this alone, I'm curious.
And Douglas McKinnon, who was co-show running and directing, also I think was a big factor in its success.
Mike, what about you? Did you feel like they were sort of milking it, or did you feel like there was still room for more?
Oh, it definitely felt like there was still room for it. There's a whole world they haven't explored. And, I love the characters enough from the book and then from, of course, the TV series, played brilliantly by Michael Sheen and David Tennant. It was believable because the chemistry between the two of them, I could watch them, reading the phone book or just sitting talking on the telephone. And in some cases, you have actually. And that's the great thing with this. And you have two people who genuinely like each other and genuinely respect each other. And it shows. It really, really shows. And it carries into the second season. And I trust Neil Gaiman enough to, if he's going to take a very firm hand with the series, kind of like what he did with Sandman. And, and I liked it that much. Was I worried because what they did with, with American Gods, because that went on way, way too long and went way off course. This, I didn't feel like it. I felt like this was a proper continuation from the first one. And I'm looking forward to talking all about it.
Yeah, and I think we found out too that if Neil's personally involved in things, it is a good thing.
Yes, it makes a difference.
Because I know American Gods, he was not. Certainly in our conversations on Earth Station Who about his work with Doctor Who, when he's more involved, it's all the better for it. And with this one, and like Sandman, I mean, he was involved very much in that as well. So I think it really does at least give fans of that work, of his work, something to look forward to, because I don't feel like it's being, sort of dumbed down or it's a weaker product because of it. So and yeah, like you guys, I was eager to see what would happen in Gaiman We Trust, that sort of thing, especially when he's involved. And Tennant and Sheen are the odd couple of heaven and hell. Like they are just like I mean, give me more. As you said, Mike, I could watch them read the phone book together. I've often thought, I think last time when we talked about the series, I mean, I would love to see them, because we know that they're perfectly capable of like switching roles. Like it would be really fun to see them like just switch the roles, because we know that each one is capable of it. Maybe there'll be an opportunity at some point, because I do think there is an opening. Obviously, at the way this ends, we are going to talk about spoilers, as Mike said. There is room for a third season. I don't think there's been announced that there is going to be one yet. So I guess we'll see. Reviews on this one so far have been pretty positive. I don't know how well it's doing, ratings wise and all that kind of stuff. But then again, all those streaming numbers, they play them close to the vest. And of course, we're not getting anything real soon because, nothing's
Right.
happening right now. So
Speaking
of like, odd streaming numbers, that kind of thing,
they've
right?
already said that, Neil had started writing it and the strike hit, and he's honoring the strike.
Absolutely. He should.
Yeah, there's been no announcement, but
No.
he has said he would release a novel if there is not a third season.
Exactly. He said,
and it's really interesting. I guess maybe it's because it's the second season and maybe it's surprising no one about it, whatever. But I'm kind of surprised that there's not a lot of blowback on this one, because man, it doesn't shy away from satiring, or all in all, just having a lot of fun, and like serious questioning like some sort of religious faith as well, right? I mean, there's a lot to unpack in this series alone, just like there was in the first one. So I'm glad to see that the second season, if anything, they sharpened their teeth. I felt like not just gave us like some, we could have just had them in the bookstore hanging out, right? But no, this has got some actual teeth to it. So Drew, we'll go back to you. What's something about the series that really resonated with you?
Again, it's the relationship between both Tennant and Sheen. I mean, I really should say, Crowley and Aziraphale, but that friendship and blossoming friendship more than anything else, it's I think the reason we all come back to it. But the inclusion of John Hamm as Gabriel was a really interesting, I don't want to call it a third wheel, but like just kind of adding to that dynamic. It really gave us a look into what they would be like as parents, raising a child, and which I think is what we are more kind of likely to see if there is a third season. So I really like that because I think Hamm's comedy chops are great. Fletch, which came out, I guess, last year or earlier this year, was really good. You can see amazing. He just kind of leans into it again, like appearances in 30 Rock. All that being said, I thought he was a really fun added extra to those their dynamic.
Absolutely. And I think it, I'm going to praise him again, but Tennant and Sheen are so good. I mean, I've seen Sheen play seriously evil bad guys before. And the fact that he is the exact opposite here, convincingly so, astounds me. I forget everything else he's done. And when I see Crowley, I don't think of the 10th Doctor. I don't think of the only other David Tennant role that I can think of, because he's got the same swagger, is when the role he played in the remake of Fright Night, because he kind of has that same sort of like.
That's true. Yeah,
he sort of has the same like sort of swagger to him, and although it's here, it's amplified.
I mean, it's 100% Bill Nighy. I mean, he's just watched Bill Nighy mainly from Love Actually, and it's just step by step, the way he holds his jaw, the way he walks, the way he holds his belt. I mean, that is
even the way he points at something, like it's Bill Nighy completely.
Absolutely. Really, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, he's totally lifted it. But I mean, he's so good, and so believable. So yeah, I definitely agree that this is their series. And yeah, John Hamm makes an interesting reappearance here, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure. Mary, what's something else about the show that resonated with you this season?
Well, I mean, the most important thing was just the LGBTQIA plus.
Wait, is it that time? Are we doing one of those episodes already? Just kidding.
I always just abbreviate it to queer. I call myself queer because it gets ridiculous. But just seeing, hoping they would go there, and they went there, and often they don't, and so that was really nice to see. I didn't need it to end. It was okay with me that it ended messily, as long as it became clear that relationship was important. And also, seeing the relationship between the blossoming relationship between the lesbian couple, which was not, an easy thing, because there were complications with another partner being there. And I felt they did that very sensitively and very realistically. And it was a joy to see that represented on screen. I really enjoyed that.
Now, do you feel that was that their budding relationship was apparent in the first season, and to see it here, it just connects with it? Or do you think it?
Well, they're different characters on the second season.
Yeah.
They're not attached. They're not representing the same people they did in the first.
No, they weren't in the first season, Mike.
Well, I'm talking about Crowley and Aziraphale.
Oh.
Because that's.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the lesbian.
But both actors were in the first season. They just played different characters.
Yeah.
What we were talking about, Nina.
I mean, if you're talking about Aziraphale and Crowley, then I think it's heavily implied.
Oh yeah, it's been implied the whole time.
I mean, not necessarily that they realize it, because they're not humans,
right?
And so for them, it's a big struggle coming to terms with that, but also that just makes it more interesting to watch.
Mhm. And
Right.
literally from the very first scene in the first episode, when you first see them at the Garden of Eden, the way they're looking at each other and the smiling and the connection building right there, you could tell there's a spark between the two of them.
Right. Well, and then in the second one, you find out they had history even before
Oh yeah,
the
when he was an
garden,
angel.
yes. So I thought that was interesting too.
I think one thing about this second series is that it is interesting to me because it really throws in the face that, especially on the heaven side, that for all the representatives of heaven, it's amazing to me like how little they know about love
Mm-hmm.
and how little they understand love and can recognize love. They don't even realize how it works, really. And I thought that was an interesting take this second season, because it seems like it was pretty much present in every episode, with a lot of the representatives, especially like with Muriel saying, "Don't you know it takes a couple days or takes a couple weeks, like, or whatever to manifest." But and they were like, "Oh yeah, sure, we know that, of course we know that."
You know everything. Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
So, Mike, what about you? What's something else that resonated with you this season?
Well, the relationship building throughout with multiple different characters. But for me, John Hamm made it, really enjoyable. He was the nice little wrench in it. Because at first you were like thinking, okay, what's Gabriel trying? What is he trying to do? Is he faking this? And it was really well done, him showing up and the nods that they did throughout to Doctor Who in this season was just amazing. You had, everything from Jim's outfit which was Sylvester McCoy's, with the sweater and even the shirt with the question marks on it. And, it was just to the fez, it was just, or the fly that was bigger on the inside, come on, folks.
The 1965 Doctor Who
Yes.
annual.
Exactly. There wasn't a Doctor Who annual in 1965.
Of course, as soon as he says that, you could
prototype.
hear the music playing in the background.
Of course, which was just awesome. But yeah, it's interesting. And some of it for me, it was not, as it didn't feel as special to me as the first season, because the first season was seeing the book come to life. This was all new material and everything. And it kind of lost a little bit for the second season. There was something quirky and crazy with all the different characters. You had the whole Antichrist, you had the whole thing with the witch, and you had the witch finders, and you had then heaven and hell and the demons and everything in the first season. This one, it almost felt like, okay, let's see what Crawley and Ezekiel can, pull over their eyes, the whole time. It almost felt like a little more like a caperish type thing. And
yeah, not near as big as stakes.
No, exactly. So for me, it didn't feel as special this season. I still loved every second of it, and I will watch it over and over again. But I don't consider it the masterpiece that season one was.
Interesting.
Can I jump into something that you just said?
Sure.
Yeah,
about the stakes. Agreed. The end of the world seems to be pretty important for all of us on it. But love is a bigger stake than I think the show makes it out to be. And again, if they have a third season, I think what we're really seeing is heaven and hell moving away from definites and kind of moving into gray areas. And they argue about the colors of gray, right? Super white or super, super dark. But we're looking at agents of heaven and hell who are supposed to be celestial beings, infernal and celestial beings, who are more human than human, who are essentially kind of a part of the ineffable plan, maybe or maybe not. But those stakes are huge, because it's clear when you look at season 1 and season 2, in season 2, heaven and hell are lost. They're completely lost. They don't know what to do with themselves because they were all moving towards a single goal for the longest time. When that gets destroyed, and in season 1, they don't know what to do but try it again. And it's love that eventually stops that from happening. It's love that is going to, again, if we get a third season, progress that story forward. So yeah, it doesn't feel like the stakes are as big, but it's very clear that it is a part of a larger message which will become more apparent later on. And I'm not trying to say I know what's going to happen in the third season. I'm just saying that it feels very much like the ineffable plan is moving heaven and hell away from the dogmatic, impractical, impersonal, bland, businesslike, or dark, dank kind of impersonal aspect that hell is, to something more human. And I think that's part of the charm of the show, and it's just why you have characters like Crowley and Aziraphale are so nice, because they are breaking the mold, and being around humans kind of changes them as well. So vice versa.
Completely, they've changed their characters of being around for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
They've got to experience life, where in heaven, it's like a giant corporate office, very cold and very impersonal. And hell is like going to a couple different nightclubs I've been to growing up. So.
Wow, this must have been great clubs.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're the worst aspects of humanity, right? Like they're the pettiness. Like heaven is petty and hell is petty as well. What they don't have is love, and that, if you're going to change, love and compassion are the things that both sides equally need, and that's the important part, right? Like they're equally bereft of love.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and they even showed that in the end of the last episode with Beelzebub and, of course, Jim. So, them building their relationship, and they realized that they had more in common, and that they actually liked being around each other and everything. So,
yeah, once everything they've been taught and grew up with sort of, fell away, they discovered that, hey, we actually have some things in common. I think Good Omens is just kind of the old philosophical argument between predestination and, I was going to say, existentialism, but at this point maybe it's chaos theory. Because I think what they're satirizing is the rigidity, and as Drew was saying, how religion is so dogmatic and set on a certain course and never deviates. And if you deviate 1 inch, well, then there's something wrong with you and you're not part of that religion. And how can you not understand this is where we're supposed to be going? You can't do that. You can't go there. But that's not life. That's not how life works. And I think their whole point was the reason that in this world God created humanity was because they recognized that, and they're like, oh no, this isn't what the universe is. The universe is messy, and this is how I show you that, and this is how you learn that.
Absolutely. And yeah, it does seem more of a biting look at fundamentalism, especially when it comes to heaven, and the fact that they are still like, they're right on board. Didn't work for the first Armageddon, then we're gonna have to let's do another one. Yeah, we need another one. And it takes Gabriel to be like, I don't think so.
Nah.
And I think that because unbeknownst to anybody else, he's been secretly meeting with Beelzebub, and I think their relationship is cute. I just don't know, like, the flies that would have. I couldn't do that.
Really, flies are very sexy.
I'm sorry. The flies, I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Can I pose a question to the three of you?
Of course.
All right. So we had an actor change between season 1 and season 2 for Beelzebub.
We did.
Correct.
which they mentioned every episode.
Yes.
Right. Which I think is important that they draw attention to the fact, but I think the cuteness of the new Beelzebub is part of like I'm just wondering if it still would have worked had we had the original actor in that part. For me, when they change it to make a love story, that didn't work for me, because I was constantly reminded of, like, they're constantly reminding they've changed, but then when you find out why, it's kind of like, oh, did they not think that relationship was going to work? I mean, it might be contractual. I could be completely off base,
Yeah,
but it feels like a producer going, no one's going to believe that John Hamm is going to fall for this first season 1 actor. I think we should change them.
Well,
Is
it's
it-
been, now I can't, prove that this is true, but supposedly the actor was not available.
Right. I had,
Okay.
And they
that's
had,
what
and,
I'd
and
read
they
about
had to
that.
be recast.
She had to
People
be recast.
ignore everything I said for the last 2 minutes.
Yes.
But it's,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was
is
great. I loved
it
it.
is a valid point because they are,
Well, it was-
cuter.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think Shelley Khan. I mean, I think Shelley Khan is great. But I mean, I don't think Anna Maxwell Martin is anything to like shake a stick at. Like, I just don't like.
No,
like,
yeah, and it wasn't
So-
my personal tastes. It felt like a production note where if there's going to be a love story, recast the character, like a
Yeah, I
second
don't-
season of Bewitched or whatever. But
I mean, who knows?
yeah.
It could be that way,
Right.
but I don't think so. I mean, she's not. Yeah, I don't know. And to me, to be honest with you, my stupid memory, I didn't even notice until like, I don't know, until they really pointed it out a couple times, and I was like, oh, okay, but it didn't. I didn't have that other actress's face or image in my
Sure.
head. So,
But
but you
they
had
also-
seen it just the right before,
right. No, we had recently
so-
watched it. Yeah.
So that
so
would be a little bit more jarring, I would think. Whenever
Partially.
there's a cast change like that, of course.
Well, the other thing too is we had three actors who were in prominent roles, or maybe not necessarily prominent roles, in the first season 1, who are back but completely different roles, and
Yes.
that's perfectly fine. I mean, we're Doctor Who fans. I mean, if it's
happens
nothing
all
but
the
recasting
time.
of characters, it's like,
Yeah, I
oh,
think
you
that
were a
was another
background actor
Easter
in
egg,
this
Yeah,
one, and now you're the Doctor.
it's a
Right,
it's a
it
small
happens.
island. We get it.
Right. Sure. There's only 12 people who act there.
So yeah, I understand that, and yeah, I think this is a much, in a way, simpler story than the first one. It's not like the stakes aren't there, but there's a lot of moving parts to this. The cast is smaller overall. I will say, and the flashbacks were, I want to talk about those in a minute, but I think what I was going to say, somebody mentioned about, the difference between heaven and hell and everything. And I do find all of that imagery fascinating. I find it interesting that heaven is this sort of like, corporate office that's really empty. It's almost like,
Very
we
stark.
can't, like there's not a lot of people coming into heaven. Meanwhile, you go to hell and they're understaffed. It's crazy dirty down there. I mean, obviously you expect the conditions to be pretty bad down there, but I mean, it's to a new level. It's like Terry Gilliam, like on steroids bad,
Yeah,
right? Like
it's incredibly
A very good way of
crowded.
describing it.
Yes.
and
that was even, when they found the matchbook in heaven,
Yeah.
they were like, a physical object is here,
yeah,
it's like,
they
were
yeah,
shocked.
yeah, and there's like, it seems like there's only like a few people up there, and it just seems like, I will say that sometimes it seemed like maybe all of those players were really maybe overly dim.
on both sides, truthfully.
Absolutely, on both sides, which
Yes.
made it a bit difficult for me to, in this time around, to take the evil, like the Hellions, especially their attack, seriously. I mean, I know it's not like, really going to be an intense, like, when The Walking Dead was really good or anything like that, but it did seem like I never really felt like our people were in danger at all.
No.
And that's okay. I mean, it's not the point of this, but I did feel like, you guys have the scene, like for example, the scene where she tries to rally the Legion, and it's not really Legion, but it's and the one guy
70,
keeps,
70
and that
games,
guy
dude.
kept reappearing like over and over and over again. Many times I thought he was destroyed, and then he kept like popping up again over and over. I was like, wow.
He got destroyed the same way last season.
Yeah, that was in the first season too.
But
Yeah.
I think that like that was, that scene, that sequence like really didn't work for me as much. The one with the, where she's trying to rally the troops and everything. I thought that went on a little long, and it was just like, not to fault Miranda Richardson, because I think she was amazing in this. She was, almost all the acting was top notch in this.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say episode 4 with the zombies was my least favorite episode.
Yes.
And it just dragged on for me, and the joke got old. And I'm not a huge fan of zombies anyway. It's kind of a one-note thing.
They've been so overdone.
Yeah, I mean, especially these days.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh yeah, part of him fell off. It's not funny anymore. It was barely funny in the beginning. So it just, yeah, that whole, I'm going to rewatch Good Omens 2 many, many times again, I am sure, and I'm going to be perfectly fine with skipping over episode 4, because it's not going to lose anything if I do that.
But you don't want to see Mark Gatiss again? Come on.
Yeah, I don't need to see Mark Gatiss again.
Let me, if I may, I'd like to jump on that
Sure.
comment, Mary, because I feel like, one, I think Douglas McKinnon is a phenomenal director, and I think it's very well done across the board. I think if there's anything to complain about in this, it's the script, and maybe not so much that Neil Gaiman's ideas, but I don't feel like it was 6 episodes worth of ideas. I think it was very much 2 episodes worth of ideas with a lot of really good flashbacks kind of placed in, which I feel tonally never really matched and felt all over the place. However, what I tune in for is to watch Tennant and Sheen talking with one another and interacting throughout history and kind of gleefully poking at religion in general. So that's fine. I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it nearly as much because I didn't feel it was a cohesive story. Like Mike said, no real stakes. But at the same time, it would travel in one direction, and then it would go to a flashback, and then there would be a scene that was too long, and then there would be another flashback, which maybe didn't really feed the overall narrative. There were a couple of flashbacks that I thought were superb, but the Nazis one was a little. It wasn't really for me.
Yeah, I mean,
it
was like middle episode-itis. It's like in any miniseries, the episode that's right in the middle is usually the worst one because it's a filler episode. Even when we're even when we're reviewing our classic Doctor Who episodes, quite a lot of the time, they suffer from middle episode-itis.
Stories that could be, 4 very easily.
Well, most of those 6 episode stories are a 2 episode story and a 4 episode story that's very thinly tied together. That's just kind of how classic Who was written. Mike, you had mentioned the flashback with Job. I mean, we got Peter Davison, like Tennant's father-in-law coming in there, which, there's enough jokes within that. Tennant's kid is in that episode as well as one of the kids, which is, you don't have to know that, but if you do, it's kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. Those are really great. Actually, I really like Crowley with kids. It's very funny. The small one who wanted to be turned into a blue lizard was just adorable.
I know. It was like, there were so many times it's like, oh, he's a great guy. No, I'm not. I'm an evil demon, and it just, and Tennant plays it so well. And he got to use his Scottish accent even a little bit.
Yes.
Well, he uses Scrooge McDuck accent, which is in particular like really kind of fun because it's so over the top.
No, that was that the episode before I think that's the episode before the zombie one, though. The one where they're split up, Azrael goes to what is it? Edinburgh, right? And that present stuff didn't, like, when they were separated, for some reason it just didn't work as well for me. But we had this huge like flashback of them with the grave robbers and all that in Edinburgh and all that, and building up that and of course that that was more. I kept thinking there was going to be some sort of like, Victor Frankenstein thing or something going on there, whatever. But not quite, but that was an interesting follow-up story, I think.
It was an
to the
interesting
Job
story
one
too. But I loved, in the only part of the present time though I loved was when, basically you had Aziraphale driving the car like under the speed limit. Crowley was like, "Are you driving it under the speed limit?" And then he had painted it yellow also.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Touching his stuff.
And the car liked it, which was even better.
Yeah, well, of course, it was Crowley's car. He was going to love Aziraphale.
Of course.
It's part of Crowley.
Toot my own horn here for a moment. So I'm watching that episode. This is episode 3 that we're talking about, which is called I Know Where I'm Going. About 2 weeks before watching that episode, I watched a film from 1945 called I Know Where I'm Going, which is a kind of screwball comedy, takes place in Scotland. And there is a moment, it's a Pressburger and Powell film, someone who I should have known about much longer ago. But if you haven't seen A Matter of Life and Death, which is also called Stairway to Heaven in the United States, which is about an angel essentially working a trick on a human being who should have died and fell in love and now needs to go to heaven. And the argument is whether they should go. It's really worth. There's a lot of the DNA for what we're getting in Good Omens is in that movie. Clearly, Douglas McKinnon is a huge fan of their work because there is a direct visual gag that was stolen from that movie, which is they go through a train from England into Scotland, and it becomes this kind of weird. The rolling hills look like tartans and are plaids, and we get the same thing in just this brief moment. So I wrote to McKinnon and I asked, "Is this a direct reference to I Know Where I'm Going?" And he's like, "The episode is called I Know Where I'm Going. Of course it's a direct reference to it, but I'm really glad that you got it because no one else had made that connection yet." So I was just really happy it wouldn't have happened had I not watched the movie like literally weeks before that episode. But It's nice when you get to see a director pay homage to something that really means something to them.
And I'm really glad that this series is able to have the same director for all the episodes, because there is a sort of continuity that's there. You don't feel like anything feels vastly out of place. I mean, it really does feel like a lot of streaming shows do, the short ones anyway. It feels like a long movie rather than it does an episode by episode series. So I do appreciate that too. Good call. I hadn't made that connection. It's been a while since I've seen either one of those movies, but now that you mentioned them, I'm like, yep, I could see where, that's an influence. That's an influence. Wow. And, Powell got influenced on Barbie with Red Shoes, got influenced with Barbie too. So man, we're coming back, bringing him back.
Tales of Hoffman lined up to watch relatively soon. Yeah. If anyone's interested in either of one of those, YouTube has Criterion has published on YouTube really clean prints of both A Matter of Life and Death and I Know Where I'm Going, so you can just go in and watch them for free. They're excellent films. The Pressburger and Powell, known as the Archers. Something new to me, but I've been trying to watch more films I hadn't seen before. This is not a podcast about movies I watch, so never mind. You know what? We'll just go ahead.
That's good. It's good stuff. I mean, it really is. And and I'm a big TCM fan, and they show those movies a bit too. So
of course, I'm sure they would have to.
Yeah. So, all right, Mary, what's something else about the series that you wanted to, either good or bad, that you wanted to bring to attention?
Well, let's talk about the ending.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, let's do it.
About the ending.
Because the ending is a controversial thing. And even in back as we go back into the queer community, it's a controversial thing because they get there and then they don't get there. It's immediately, there's the big kiss, and then it's immediately kind of cut off, and Aziraphale goes his way and Crowley goes his way. And there have been arguments that kind of undercuts the queer representation. I disagree with that, because I think it was a realistic thing to happen for the characters, because Aziraphale, I think, is still overcoming being an angel. He's still kind of black and white. He's having trouble.
Quite come out yet.
Yeah, he's still quite moralistic. Even after, that's why we had the flashback with the grave robbers, to kind of show him that things aren't always quite that black and white. And he's still learning, and he is learning, but he hasn't quite got there yet. And he's still very trusting, even when he knows that perhaps he shouldn't be. He wants to believe in the good. And so, yeah, I thought it's a very interesting moral point of view to explore. And I'm glad that Neil Gaiman did not take the easy way out, and is going to explore this further. And even if we just get a novel out of it, but I really hope we get a season 3, because I really want to see it.
Yeah, I agree. If this was the end, if we knew there was going to be no more or whatever, then yeah, I could see where that does feel like a bit of a cheat at the end, or people could feel cheated about the end. But it's really not very satisfying either, as an ending. So I think they have to continue. I mean, and it's apparent to me that Neil and company want to continue by putting this ending there.
Yeah, one way to get your 3rd season greenlit is to end on a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
2nd season.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm sure that was probably a little bit calculated, which is fine, because I really want a 3rd season. So you go, Neil.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Oh, what about you, Mike? Anything else that you want to bring up?
Well,
or if you want to reflect on the ending as well.
No, the ending, it was interesting. As soon as I saw, the Metrotron there, and it was just like, oh, something big is going to be happening, because they brought God into this. They brought, I would have loved to.
Well, I would
have loved to have seen Frances McDormand.
Sure, but
voice.
Come on, Derek Jacobi is pretty much an acting god, like at this point. So it's like, yeah, that's that in and of itself, just the casting has so much weight to it, right?
It was interesting too, because the other angels didn't recognize him, and that I found was interesting. And I loved, Crowley, who said, "Oh, the last time I saw you, you were a big floating head," and so it was very
didn't recognize him with a body.
No, but I'm glad it took the other couple, even though they're not a couple yet, the coffee shop and the record store girls, and to let open Crawley's eyes. You've been blind to this. You guys are a couple. You act like a couple. You guys, and it's like, we're not ready to get together because I don't want her to be a rebound. And that is so realistic too. And that was pretty awesome about it and everything. And I loved how it ended. And because, it's like, oh my God, I can't wait. Book form, trade paperback, comic, or a TV show. I'll watch, season 3.
I think Neil says yes to all 3.
Oh, of course he does.
Yes.
Of course he does. And the cool thing with it, though, is you get, Neil's already said if he does a season 3, that's it. They're not going any further past that.
That's fair. I think that's fair too.
I think that's perfect. The story needs to have an end. So
well, before we kick out of here, I definitely also want to mention, and I probably should have mentioned her sooner, but I can't go talking about this series without, for me, almost stole the show for me. And newcomer to me anyway. I don't think she's done much, but Quaylen Sepulveda, I think is her last name. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. Who played Muriel?
Oh,
my goodness, she
Police Constable.
Yes, the constable. Yeah. She was, like I said, she almost stole every scene she was in. and so great at conveying this sort of like young, innocent person that or being really, that I definitely see that if, or think that if we're doing a third season, like she needs to be part of that as well. Especially to see how she grows, because it's a Neil character. They're not going to stay the way they are.
No.
Neil Gaiman doesn't keep characters the way they are. Like
Mhm.
they're just something that they grow. They grow one way or another. So, but I'm really interested to see. I guess she's currently, or she was in the series Man Who Fell to Earth, the adaptation of that movie. So I need to check that out because I'm kind of curious to see her other work now. But man, everybody else was really, I think on top notch as well. But for a newcomer to come in and do that, I thought was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I have a feeling she's probably going to have maybe even a big part in the third season, because she's the one who's left in charge of the bookshop.
Yep.
And you can already see a little bit how it's changing her, how being
Yep.
involved in this has changed her. And so,
And-
yeah, it would be
of
lovely to see her
course-
journey.
Of course, how do you learn and how do you grow? Neil Gaiman, read books.
Exactly.
And she's surrounded by them.
Exactly.
So I think it's going to be awesome. So yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. We all want a season 3.
Let me also bring up one other character. I thought you had Liz Carr as Sakrawell, and she is a disabilities actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the inclusion of her character as one of the angels was wonderful. I thought she was very, very well inclusive and very well done. I found her more riveting to watch than I did Michael or the other angel. This one was more interesting, and I loved how she recognized Crawley right away. It was like, "Oh, you're back, Crawley," and he says, "Oh, I know you," and it's like, "Oh yeah, we designed the Horseshoe Nebula together." Oh, did we? Oh, so many faces that it's like typical Crawley, which is pretty awesome. But I just appreciated that they did something like that and made it inclusive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I mean, that kind of wraps up our talk for season 2. Fingers crossed that when the smoke clears on all this stuff that's going on with the actor strike, the writer strike, et cetera, that one of the first things that comes out of this is that there's going to be a season 3. And if so, we'll be back to talk about it. So hopefully it won't be that long until we have a Drew back. Because it's been awesome to have you back with us as well. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to close out the show.
Okay, YouTubers, thank you for sticking with us. We do appreciate you guys more than you guys ever imagined. And it was a fun thing to watch Good Omens. And, it's really rare when you get a second season as good as the first with most series and everything.
Yes.
And, the excitement for this. And during the episode we just recorded, I said, there was something different about this season and everything, but it was in a good way. I'm going to ask you guys, straight out, what could have been better with this season? Were there any characters from the first season that were missing with this? Did you feel like, what they could have added to make it even better? And this is open to everybody. So, that's the cool thing with it. I don't think we needed a follow-up with, Adam, and such. His story was played already.
Yeah, we didn't need to go back there.
No.
Yeah, I think the characters that they included are fine. I think everybody who was from series 1 who was not in series 2, their story ended there. It's but isn't necessary, because season 2 is a very different beast. It's completely different from the originals. And I think in many ways it's almost an homage to Pratchett, where you do something different, you create new characters for it. And bringing in actors from series 1 to play new characters is also kind of a nice homage, kind of keeping it in the family too. So I don't think anybody from series 1 needed to come back for, or at least that's my opinion.
That's cool. Mike or Mary?
Yeah, I mean, I really think you only needed a Zero Family Crowley.
Yeah.
to come back.
Exactly.
That's true.
You know, the other ones just their stories were wrapped up pretty nicely
Mhm.
in season 1. So there just wasn't and I'm glad they didn't just drag them back because they felt like they needed to have some sort of connection or more of a connection to season 1 because I don't think they needed it. I mean, it's like Drew said, season 2 was a completely different beast, and I'm fine with that. I like where they went with it. My only problem was that sort of middle of the road filler episode, but other than that, it was fantastic to watch, and I'm going to watch it many times more.
Awesome. Mikey?
Well, I think when we reviewed the first season, I think I might have said something slightly controversial. But I think I
really?
said that I know. I think I said that I thought that the plot and everything, I thought that it developed a lot better than the original book. I thought it was an improvement on the book. Not that I'm dissing the book, but I thought that a lot of things they did in the series were improvements. And I think I don't fault, you know, I mean, they grow. I'm sure if Terry was still around, I mean, it would have been different as well. But in any case, I felt like they told the story better, at least as far as I was concerned, in the series. And this one, we don't have a book to go off of,
Yet.
but yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will. And yeah, it's Neil Gaiman, of course we will. And but I do think that that story was told. And the beauty of having these two angelic demonic characters and all the rest of it that goes on with it is that, you know, one story ends, but, you know, that the war continues. And so it's nice to see like them, like, you know, that's why when we see all the flashbacks or whatever, it's not very jarring. We hope that there's some sort of connection, that Neil's going to connect them in some way, but not in a linear way where we're not dealing with the same characters over and over and over again. We're not telling that same story over and over and over again. This is a different story featuring the same character, or, you know, two of the same characters. And it's not as, you know, obviously it's not apocalyptic. So it's not as, you know, the stakes aren't as high, but yet I think, as Drew pointed out, you know, when love's involved, and you've got love involved on multiple levels with a lot of the characters here, I mean, the stakes can't be much higher than that, right? Especially between our two main characters.
Mhm.
And remember too that it's mentioned that the next war isn't going to be fought between heaven and hell. It's us versus this lot, which is
Yep.
humanity,
Right.
which is what they're setting up for the
Yeah.
third one too.
Oh,
Yeah,
of course.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
And also-
and it's interesting with that because, you know, you see that, you know, with the characters evolving and now them bringing in the whole thing with, you know, the second coming. And I'll be very curious to see how they're going to represent that too. Because Neil is very, very, you know, realistic about it. If they show Jesus, he ain't going to be white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes.
Well, it's not like he was in
In
reality.
real life. No, he was not.
Well, he wasn't in series 1, you know, so the representation of Jesus was very much well, particularly ethnically correct.
I know, but Neil's gotten, you know, comments because of that and everything, and it was just interesting. You know, I was like thinking about while I was watching the second season. The second season could easily and very easily be a play because it's basically all centered around the neighborhood with the bookstore.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
it's
Omens,
very,
the
very
musical.
small.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be a great musical. But
and shout out, by the way, to the music and the opening credits.
Oh, the opening,
because once again, the opening credits are amazing, and the music is also really
did they
good
change
throughout.
the opening credits for every episode?
I can't tell because there's so much going on.
It's so dense.
But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, I watch them every time. It gives me an option to skip, and I'm like, why would I want to skip this?
No.
Exactly. I had
fun.
the same
Skip that.
reaction. I'm not. No way am I skipping it.
There are some openings that I gladly like. Oh yeah, just skip this. But Good Omens opening, nope. I'm in for all 6. Thanks.
Oh, it's just beautiful. It is truly, truly beautiful. And it looked like, in the opening credits, they were marching into heaven, and with at the end climbing the mountain and with the halo at the top of it and everything. So it was just very, very interesting, and seeing some of the supporting creatures or people and stuff. Okay, is that person going to show up in the series? Is that person? Because you had that in the first one. That's the first time, like what you saw in the first season, you saw the aliens and the spaceships, and you saw, some of the demons and everything in the preview, in the opening first, before you even saw them on screen. So it's just interesting. And there was, in the second season, they took it to the nth degree. There was just so much to see and everything. And, I even tried, because you can go onto YouTube and, pause it and, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And it's just awesome just to see and everything. And I'm sure there's people who've done YouTube videos, basically, going, okay, and this is that character, that's that character. And it's probably like a 4-hour long video for beginning. So
yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Thanks to high def, we can freeze frame and analyze.
Oh God,
gives a lot of other YouTubers stuff to do.
Exactly,
Opening credits explained.
And they're getting so many more hits than us. Who knew? So, there you go. So it's pretty awesome though. But yeah, I loved it. For those who don't know, if you go out to Kickstarter, there is a Good Omens trade paperback that is being created, and it's got Neil's blessing and everything on it. And
the graphic novel,
yeah, it looks amazing and everything. And I think it's only £20 to get the actual copy of it. So, which is not too bad. And, I signed up for it the first time I saw it. So I'm looking forward to getting it. So it should be tons of fun. We'll put a link to it up on our show notes so people can see. And, people who listen to the podcast are like, there's a trade paperback. What? I didn't know about that. See, this is why you have to listen to our YouTube segment too. So, and thank you, YouTube people. We do love you guys. We really, really do. All right. I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. So that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Drew, it's been great having you back on the show, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be back.
Yep, it is awesome. We got to have you back more than, every quarter of a, decade. Or something. So anything you want to promote or anything or shout out about?
Sure. We've mentioned Doctor Who a couple of times on here. So if you want to hear me talk about Doctor Who, I have a Doctor Who podcast with my friend Brent Johnson called Who and Company, where every month we bring on a guest and discuss Doctor Who, their lives, how they're connected to Doctor Who, and a television show that may or may not have anything to do with Doctor Who. Past guests include Douglas McKennon, the director of Good Omens. So that's a particularly fun episode to listen to. I'm also on the Doctor Who podcast out of the UK. It's an international one, so I'm on there once a month. And if you like role-playing games and movies, I have one called Never Say Die with my friend Ray Stelf, where we discuss a movie and then talk about how you can gamify that to capture the spirit of the movie, regardless of the system that you're playing in.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds
really fun.
That's very cool. And we'll have links to it up on our show notes so we can check it out. And Ms. Mary Ogle, thank you as always being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun to talk about.
Anything you want to shout out or promote?
Well, everyone can find me on Earth Station Who, talking about Doctor Who with my two good friends. And if you would like to see more of my artwork, I just put some new paintings up on my website, and you can find me at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did. And as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about?
Well, I want to, I know a lot of people are, some people look at the news, some people don't, but people haven't been paying attention. There's some pretty devastating things going on in Maui with the wildfires and everything like that. And a lot of times when stuff like this happens, people wonder, where can I, how can I help? What what places can I send money to or support that are not like going to rip people off and going to the right places or whatever. So there's a couple links that I'm going to put on the show notes. One is for the Maui Strong Fund. And that was created to provide community resilience with resources. So for the people there, the communities there. Also, the Maui Food Bank is accepting donations as well. Of course, there's the Hawaii Red Cross and the Maui United Way. They both have set up disaster relief donation pages. And last but certainly not least, the Maui Humane Society, because not only people, but animals have been displaced and are seeking shelter. So I'm going to post links to all those places. So feel free to, support them any way you can, because these people really need some help right now.
Awesome. They do need help. And folks, it is, such horror, the devastation that happened in Maui and everything. Most of the islands, they do get, brush fires and such, but it was like almost like the perfect storm, because a hurricane was passing by it and the winds from it actually fed into the fire. And there was a lot of human error too that led into this. And it's just devastating what happened. And, we'll have links, of course, in the show notes, like Mike said, and we will, definitely try to help however we can. And, if anyone who is listening to us in Hawaii, and I know we do have listeners there, I hope you guys are safe. That's, what we all can hope for. So definitely, I'm going to end it there. I'm not going to do my shout out or whatever, because, hey, I've been watching a new TV show or something like that. No, just after what's been going on, it doesn't seem right. So let's leave it at there tonight. Of course, thank you guys as always, everyone who's been listening, everyone who's been, happy, with the show. And it's just great. Our numbers are going up constantly. Thank you for everyone who's been dealing and supporting us on some of the format changes we've done to the show. For a while, we went to every 2 weeks, but we're back to now just once a week. And you know what? We're at a good place. We are at a really good place. And thank you, everyone who's been sticking with us with this. It's just been a lot of fun. And we've got a lot of great shows coming your way. Hell, we're planned already into the next year already for shows. So, it's not like we don't like doing this kind of stuff. And you know what? That's the best part about it. We have so much good stuff coming through here, and we are just having a great time. Remember, though, you can, if you want to write us, please write us feedback@ourstation1.com. Definitely would love to hear from you guys. If you want to, get some ESO Network swag, we got an amazing, Tee-Public store that Mary and I have been putting together, and Mary's been uploading all the files and getting logos and designs and wacky ideas that I come up with. And I send her, what about this one? And she goes, no, we'll get sued for trademark about on that one, stuff like that. So definitely check out our Tee-Public store. You can just type in ESO Network or Earth Station 1. You'll come to our stuff. Also, if you want to help support us, of course, there's the ESO Network Patreon, where you can help us for as little as $1 a month. Not too shabby. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/ESO Network. Definitely would love to have more of you guys up there. And it's a way of us keeping even closer contact and stuff. Of course, as we like to say, we could be found anywhere fine podcasts are found. You could find our Station 1 there. There's so many different things. And with the fall of Stitcher, we're elsewhere. So you can definitely find us, and you could find us up on, I think we are now up on Sirius XM. You can find us through there. So, I think that's the big leagues. Okay, maybe not, but we're up there. So I think that took its place, and it's good. And we're also up on Pandora now also. So definitely find our Station 1 up there. Also, if you want, subscribe wherever you're doing it, and also like and subscribe if you're listening to us on YouTube. That's the best way to do it. There's a nice little button right down there that says subscribe. We're not going to push it too much. Yes, we will. Who am I saying? Of course, we're going to push. This is our station 1. So definitely like and subscribe. Ring the bell if you get a chance. And with that, we are done for the night. I'm going to go and just chill, and we're going to watch maybe Good Omens again. I think we need to watch it a second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. You know, there's nothing else on TV. Come on. We can only need to watch that. So definitely, folks, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you here next time under Station 1. Peace, and we are done. Later, Gators.
You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.